Hi guys, you are welcome to Finance Edge once again. Today, we'll be looking at the continuation of the strategic framework which we started in the previous episode. So, we'll be looking at the SWOT framework which allows us to look at the similarities between the PESTEL framework and the SWOT framework. In my previous episode, I explained how you can use PESTEL, especially in an exam scenario or when you are trying to make a practical case. So, for PESTEL, predominantly, this framework is useful when you are looking at the environmental forces and factors that can either make or break every business. And when you look at PESTEL, PESTEL is much more robust, which is why examiner would rather go for a four-way framework, that is pest analysis. But in order to give a clearer understanding of all of the necessary environment that can influence business practices, we dovetail it down to PESTEL. So we'll be focusing on SWOT framework today. This is a common framework. It is a tool used in all settings, especially when you are trying to evaluate the strength of a team and also look at possible threats and opportunities that anyone can benefit from being a member of a team. So, SWOT can be used for different scenarios, but in this regard, we will be using it in a business context, that is, building commercial acumen into it and also dovetail it into how you can use it in any case study related exams. So, SWOT framework is a robust model just as PESTEL. You can use this framework to answer questions such as what does business have a competitive advantage at? That is, what can a business do better? What are the core competencies, the capabilities, the strengths of a business? And likewise, you can use this to look at the areas of improvement or where there is a need for call for action. We call it weaknesses. Then where can you grow? That is opportunities that can be exploited, that business can tap into in order to maximize shareholders' wealth. Threats are all of the possible issues, risk that are inherent in the business environment that, if not well managed, can kill the business or make the business to lose its competitiveness. So, it is important at this stage to let you know that the first two factors at the top, which is the XW, strength and weakness, they are internal factors. While the two other factors beneath, which is opportunities and threats, they are external factors. And this is where the dilemma is. In a case study scenario exam, you are required to use this model to evaluate a business external environment. It is a good one if the examiner specifically mentioned that you should use a SWOT analysis. But where the examiner says evaluate the possible risk inherent in the business environment of ABC Limited, it is most suitable to adopt a PESTEL or a PEST analysis rather than SWOT. The reason being that with a PESTEL, you get to talk more rather than just narrowing it to opportunities and threats, which is the case here in the SWOT framework. I mentioned in the previous episode that I'll be linking the similarities and how you can differentiate when to use PESTEL and SWOT framework. So, if the examiner mentioned that you should use a SWOT framework, you have no choice other than to adopt this framework in the application to the question. But if the examiner is silent about which framework to use, but you were told to examine or evaluate the external economic or environmental factors, it is most suitable you use PESTEL because you will get more to talk about and you'll be able to signpost and structure all your points. For instance, PESTEL itself gives you about 5 points already or 6, and with that you already know each of the critical elements you can look out for when you are picking the possible environmental forces in relation to that. But when you are adopting SWOT, to scan opportunity and scan for threats, if you are not so good and you are not spontaneous in identifying what constitutes a threat and what constitutes an opportunity, you might find it difficult to keep to time in doing all of these under exam condition. But to make it easier for you, I would like to let you know what you should look out for when you are looking at these two internal factors and the other two external factors. SWOT, as we all know, stand for strength, weakness, and opportunities, threats. And like I mentioned, it talks about the core competencies and capabilities of the business. And when you say business, it could be the management competence, it could be the internal environment. So you are looking at what are the possible strengths and weaknesses that a particular business had over another business. So one business might have a smooth organization culture or a structure or policy that is more formidable and flexible than the other, which might either be a strength or a weakness. So it could be vice versa. Do not forget, if you do not use your strength to your advantage, it might result into weakness. And sometimes when used well, you gain more competitive advantage, and when not in use, you lose your competitive advantage. So these are the possible examples of what can lead to either a strength or a weakness when you are looking at the internal business environment or internal factors that can influence business performance. Number one, organization structure. The way an organization is structured might be a blessing or a curse. And when you talk of organization structure, you are looking at the line staff organization structure, the metric structure, the divisional structure, and so on and so forth. Regional structure are much more common for businesses that have multi-layer or a conglomerate form of business. So the structure that organization adopt goes a long way to tell if it will allow the business to thrive or manage performance better or not. So when you are looking at each of these factors, it can either be a strength or a weakness. The same thing for culture and policies. The culture of an organization and the policy might be so suitable for retention of staff and might be so flexible such that it makes flow of work very easy. So if you look at some culture like the fintech industry, this may not be applicable in educational sector. So the culture and way of doing things and policies there might be somewhat bureaucratic, while in some organization might be somewhat democratic. So the organization culture and policy structure is very important for an organization to get right. If not, if you get it right, you stand a better chance of managing the workflow and internal functionality of the business better compared to your competitor who is seemingly struggling with his or her own culture, policies, and structure. Remuneration and employee welfare benefits. We live in a world where people want to work from home, there is hybrid, everybody wants to get value for money and also excel at what they do. So the remuneration structure and benefits that comes with each position, offices, might be a blessing or might also be a weakness. That is, might entice the best talent or might also chase away best talent. So your ability to retain your best talent or to keep your people motivated or to keep business running by ensuring that people are well rewarded, it's inherent in how you use your remuneration packages to the best advantage. Are you the least payer in the sector? Are you the best paying, or are you paying something that is competitive enough that can make people to stay in your organization? These are variables you need to be looking for that can speak to either this is going to constitute a strength or a weakness. Skilled personnel and expertise. Some organizations are blessed more than the other. You might get your management level right and mess it up at the operational level. So getting skilled personnel and high level of expertise could build organization strength and capabilities, and if not in use, can also result into weaknesses, or if it is lacking can result into weaknesses. Internal value chain procedure, that is the flow of work, the processes and internal procedure is important. If internal value chain and procedure of an organization is not so smooth and flexible, it might become more of a burden or more of a worry for people who are somewhat, you know, fast paced. So when you have too much bureaucracy going on to get things done, it can kill productivity, creativity, innovativeness, and this can either be a weakness or a strength if better used. Work ethics, enabling environment, infrastructure and corporate level strategy, training and development, these are key areas you want to look at. Do not forget, when you are looking at each of the variable, look at it from the angle of positive and negative. When it is positive, it constitutes a strength, and when it is negative, it constitutes weaknesses for organization. When you spend more on training and development, or possibly even encourage people to take up training, or you have a schedule that tells when each department goes on training, this can build, the level of competence and expertise, skilled personnel in-house, which can improve strength of an organization in terms of workforce, how skilled they are. If not done, that is, some organizations don't invest in training and development for staff, that might constitute a weakness. So in an exam scenario, you are looking at this from two perspectives: that is the management using this to their advantage, or they are nonchalant about it. That you form when you identify it as either a strength or a weakness. And also, opportunities and threats is going to have a sheer resemblance with PESTEL, because when you are looking at opportunities, you are looking at benefits that are in the external market or external environment, I mean. Threats as well speak to the external environment. So these are uncontrollable factors. They are uncontrollable forces. You cannot control them, you can only manage them, because part of it is government policies, political environment, socio-cultural, technological, legal environment, etc. So when you look at all of the opportunities and threats, it's predominantly what we discussed under the PESTEL episode, that is looking at the external macroeconomic factors that can either be a blessing, opportunity, or a cause, threat, that can either make opportunity or mar business, threat. So when you look at this variable as well, look at it from two positions: opportunity and threat. Economic factor could be a threat and could be an opportunity. For instance, we have some countries with minimal inflation rate of less than 2% and nothing less than 3%. And we have interest rate that is below 6%, while some country had inflation rate of over 48%, 30%, interest rate of over 20%, ease of doing business ranking. You are looking at the GDP of the economy. You are looking at host of economic factors. So the country with the most favorable economic factor offers more opportunity for businesses as compared to the other one that offer a lesser economic opportunity, which constitutes a threat. Where government is taxing the business more, that is, tax rate is high, inflation rate is high, interest rate is high, then these are threats to business survival. They are threats to business profitability and competitiveness. Political or legal environment as well. Demographic factors, where you have more aged population as opposed to active population. You are looking at this from two perspectives. Is the population more of active or aged? So when you look at this, it's either an opportunity or a threat. In this particular country, technological or digital factor, are technological advancement on the rise or on the low? If there is more advancement in technology, the way things are done, it means productivity will become better and everything will become better in terms of work practice as obtainable in the rest of the world. But where a country is backward technologically, it constitutes a threat, because they cannot keep with the pace in which other developed countries are moving. So socio-cultural environment, globalization, these are also factors that you look into from both opportunity and threat perspective. Globalization, that is, you are looking at the global market. How does world trade affect what we do? How does IMF policy affect what we do? How does World Bank policy affect what we do? Anything that affects one affects all. That is globalization. So, are these opportunity for developed country and threat for developing countries? So you are looking at it from two perspectives of both threat and opportunities. The same thing goes for when you have a competitor that is driven with the passion of being a market leader. It constitutes a threat. When there are new entrants coming in to do the same kind of business you are doing, they will disrupt the way you do business, they will put you on your toes, and these are threats to survival of business because you need to now also compete either through differentiation or cost leadership. So when you look at all of these aforementioned factors, they are talking predominantly about macroeconomic environment or external environment. This has been discussed in the last episode, and to point you in the right direction, you are only looking at it from this perspective of opportunity and threat. In summary, how do you make use of SWOT and PESTEL? Depending on how best you argue your case in the exam, SWOT model is a combination of PESTEL. That is, SWOT already has PESTEL in it because opportunities and threats contains external factors, which is predominantly what PESTEL is talking about. Why strength and weakness is one thing that PESTEL does not have, because PESTEL does not look into internal factors, and that is one of the benefits. So depending on your viewpoint or the case you have before you, if the case speaks to both the internal factors and the external factors, SWOT might be the best option for you to apply in the case study scenario. But if in the exam the scenario focuses more on external, then you go for PESTEL. In an exam scenario where internal forces are present, students should use SWOT rather than PESTEL, as it will enable more explanation of external and internal factors in a business. But where a question categorically mentioned, like I stated from the beginning, that students should explain macroeconomic factors, PESTEL is the most suitable model because the examiner is silent about which model, but you've seen that it's talking more of external factors that might affect the business. I know in most cases, examiner will surely tell you using a PEST framework to evaluate the position of the business in its environment and what are the possible forces that the business might wage war against to survive and all of that. So, but if examiner is silent about which model to use, you should use your professional judgment to advise at this stage. Never forget, there is no wrong answer or right answer when you are answering a case study exam. So regardless of the direction of the case study, the models adopted can be different. That is, the nearest person to you might be using PESTEL while you are using SWOT, and it all depends on your viewpoint and how you see things. It depends on your understanding of the scenario. But in order for you not to answer amiss, ask yourself, this scenario before me, does it constitute more of internal factors or external factor, or is it a combination of the two? Where you have a combination of internal and external factor, the best framework to use will be SWOT model, while PESTEL speaks more to external macroeconomic factors. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button because I'll be uploading more videos on all the strategic models as we are moving gradually into the core of the model. In our next episode, I'll be looking into range of strategic models such as Porter's generic model, Porter 5 forces, Ansoff growth matrix, Porter's diamond, etc. These are models that are very crucial for you in answering your case study exams and also passing your strategic papers exam. So do not forget to hit the subscribe button to get notification timely of when I upload some of these videos. The Finance Edge is set up to bring a seamless understanding of some of these strategic models, so you don't have to go through the rigor of reading your study pack in an exam situation, and you can as well just listen to this audio as a revision course for you when you are preparing for your exam. I wish you all the very best, and do not forget to leave a comment for me in the comment section, and let's take the question and answer from there. I wish you all the very best and good luck.